person.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to speak today. Since it seems to be of some general interest to the committee.
Tell us where you live and who you represent.
I apologize. I live in Boise, Idaho, and I represent myself. And since this seems to be a general consensus of the members of the committee as to the proper disposition of the uses within that site, I would like to, I have copies individual copies for every member in the committee of an excerpt from the 42-page operational plan, which shows the disposition. If the page could pass
the page can come and get that from you.
As I had mentioned, I do represent myself, though my wife and I, who moved to Idaho in 1989 after I left college. I was born into a military family, so it's fair to say I don't have a home state. The state that is my home is the one that I chose, which is Idaho. We've lived in our home for now 20 years. Hopefully we'll be able to successfully retire into that home. We've raised our children in this place. Both my wife and I have been participants within the Occupy Boise group since its inception. I serve on a number of the different working groups, including legal, policy advocacy, public involvement, public information, and I'm also one of their trained legal observers, and I also serve as one of the key police liaisons. I guess one of the things that I would like to point out, since the general distinction between the Occupy Boise occupation and the other occupations around the country is we are perhaps more transparent. We are perhaps more open to discussions with law enforcement. Not only does the deputy chief of the local police department, his captain, the evening incident commander, have my personal phone number, as does State Trooper Kelly, who oversees this general area, but I have their personal number. If they have any questions, they can call me, and they do. And if I have any questions, I can call them. One of the things that I would like to address, I guess, just the series of questions that constantly pop up in the general media, and these being, how do you respond to the criminal activities committed by members of your group? And this one is perhaps for me the most galling, since the Occupy organization is a movement dedicated to nonviolent, peaceful action. Our membership does not condone criminal activity nor harbor violent sentiments. There are no criminals in Occupy Boise. In truth, the presence of the Occupy Boise vigil has deterred criminal activity in the area surrounding the Capitol Mall. After the establishment of the vigil, one of our vigil keepers noticed a property vandal damaging private vehicles in the area and reported his observations to the local police. Due to his vigilance, a person who had been on a rampage of protest necessarily involved discussions with any of the three branches of government, whether it's legislative, judicial, or executive. In fact, the Freedom of Assembly Clause specifically cites three specific purposes for engaging in assembly, two of which are completely unmentioned in the U.S. Constitution. The U.S. Constitution simply states, as a U.S. citizen on U.S.-owned property, one would have the right to seek redress of grievance. And in the CCVN decision of the Supreme Court, in which this piece of legislation is based in a roundabout way, since the City of Boise's legislation is based on that, and that specifically was mentioned by Representative Bedke, the Supreme Court only had the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution to weigh against, which allowed them to come to the time and place decision. In the Idaho Constitution, the two other rights that are conferred to Idaho citizens are citizens have the right to convene to consult for the common good. What they consult, or the determinations that they arrive upon, they are not required to deliver them to the State House, because they're simply consulting for the common good, not consulting in order to inform the executive branch, the judicial branch, or the legislative branch. They're convening to consult for the common good. The other particular right is a rather strange, unique right, in that it properly actually frames the relationship intimated in Article 1, Section 2, which states that all political power is inherent in the people. The way I've explained it to my kids, I don't know if it's a good metaphor, is you don't have a limited cup of political power, and that when you elect individuals, you pour your political authority into all of those cups. And then when you're done, all your political power rests in your legislators' cups, and you have none. A better way of looking at it is you are the generator of political power, like electricity. And when you elect a representative, you are permitting them to come over to you and plug into the generator. And that's the extent of their authority. And that is reflected, that particular relationship was reflected in that unique third prong in Article 10, which says the people have a right to instruct their representatives, which is a unique right. You don't have that right with your federal representatives as a U.S. citizen. You only have the right to petition. You can submit your petition. There's nothing in it that says they have to agree with you, and there's certainly nothing in it that says they have to act upon that petition. In Idaho, the framers of the Idaho Constitution saw things a little bit differently. They said, all political power is inherent in the people. We elect servants, and servants take direction. They need direction. And what is occurring over there, whether it's occurring at 3 o'clock in the morning when there are some people that might be convening, when most are actually sleeping, but what is occurring through the vast portion of the days, and there have been almost, of all the different general assemblies, working groups, special events, training sessions, job skills sharing, etc. There are almost 3 events occurring on that site each and every day since its inception. That is falling within those 2 other prongs that are guaranteed rights within Article 10. So, I mean, viewed from that perspective, the actual number of residents overnight seems to be, respectfully, perhaps not the point. But it is that the convening is occurring. Thank you.
Representative Simpson.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Just one last question from me. Mr. Gunderson, in your response to Representative Crane's question, you referred to the encampment as a perpetual vigil. Is your belief that without some sort of action from this body that encampment will exist in perpetuity?
Mr. Gunderson.
Chairman, Representative Simpson, I realize that question has been put to other folks that have testified as to what could this body do? What to rephrase it, what kind of magic could this body do that would somehow make the need for what's going on next door not have to happen? And I would be, as a member of the policy advisory group that has been gathering all of this tremendous input that has come through all the different work sessions and plug them into what our